Maddy Glab, joined by General Manager Brandon Beane. Brandon, thanks for being on with us today. And this week was announced that the United Way and you are partnering for the COVID Relief Fund, a really cool initiative here because if you donate to this fund on WNYResponse.org, you can be entered to win some pretty cool experiences with yourself. One of those being the ability to be on a call with you as you go ahead and call in one of the draft picks in the upcoming draft. So, Brandon, what was the motivation behind partnering up with United Way, and why is it important to give during a time like this?
Yeah, the United Way is well known with its partnership with the NFL, and one that I've found has been very generous, and so you want to try and reach out. And so my thought in this was, what's the best way? Obviously, I'm not a medical worker or anything like that. You can't get out there on the front lines, but how can how can you make an impact, and further than just my own donation? And so I came up with it originally as just one idea of, could we auction this thing off, or what could we do to have somebody on the phone? And then we thought about it and just like, let's make this open to everybody. And the give is, the key here is just, we just want people to give, whether it's $5, $10, $200, whatever your economic situation allows. And we just figured, make it competitive. We know how passionate our Bills fan is, and Bills Mafia, and just thought it'd be a fun way to interact with them. And then that with the help of Derek and his staff, and Gretchen Geider and Michelle Roberts, a lot of them put a lot of good time and energy and thought into what would be some prizes, including a Zoom one-on-one call with me after the draft to kind of review the picks, and lunch once we can get back to normal life, and back at the Ad Pro Sports Center, and bring a few guests to practice, and some tickets to a game, a couple of autographed items, including a Josh Allen, signed jersey. So we just thought it would be an opportunity for us all to pitch in, give the community, and some once in a lifetime experiences.
So this runs through April 17th, and you've already raised $36,000. Over 900 people have donated. So it's definitely had an impact so far. And as the virus started to break out, you guys were on the road at Clemson's Pro Day when all of this started to unravel. You've now been working at home for a couple weeks. How has it been adjusting to working at home and being around the family a lot?
Yeah, it's definitely been an adjustment. Just first off, Dan Evans, as you guys all know, our IT director, he's been amazing, not only for me, but just for our scouts. And he was ahead of this. I remember him talking to me probably 10, 12 days before this really got bad, and we all had to go home, and said, hey, I've met with me, or my staff have met with all the coaches. We have them equipped with video. They know how to use the video conference software, and they did a great job of just getting everyone prepared, so that if what did eventually happen, that we could go home and work. So is it an adjustment? Yes. But can we get our job done? Yes. And so the other part of that is quarantine life with your family. And I got a wife and two high school boys, so it's been fun. Sometimes we got to get out and have our alone time too, walk around when the weather's nice. But it's been good. As I was telling the media last week, Maddie, I know you were on there. It's just I probably haven't had this many consecutive lunches and dinners with my kids. I would have breakfast, but they sleep through breakfast. So it's been fun. And as I said, then my one son who's a junior, will be a senior next year, and out of the house. So I'm trying to take the positive approach that a few years down the road, I'll be going, man, I really appreciated that time that was unexpected, in the middle of draft season.
When it comes to dinners, is there a Brandon Bean special or a Haley special that you look forward to?
As far as what we make, we've been down here in Charleston some, kind of working, out of my place here. So there's a place that I go get fish and shrimp, takeout, and so that's probably the go-to here. If we're just cooking, on the grill or something like that, it's been basics: grilled chicken, burgers, nothing too fancy.
Yeah. With this new life that we're all now living in, what is something you can't live without now working from home?
I need a haircut real bad, Maddie. I'm struggling. You take going to the barber shop or wherever you go, or for females, a hair salon. I know my wife Haley. She's been griping about that too. I guess she had an appointment she had to cancel when all this hit. But uh, I told her real soon she's going to have to learn to cut guys' hair because my boys are all growing out. So that's probably the biggest hurdle I got right now. Everything else I can deal with.
I know when we last talked, draft plans were unsure, but now it's official that it will be a virtual draft. So, how has that evolved with you and your staff over the last couple of days?
Yeah, it's been, last week at this time, it was really going back and forth, Maddie, as to whether it would be in our facility with up to like 10 people, or at one point they were talking about at our house, at our house another location with up to 10 people. And then I think there was just too many states that weren't allowing that kind of gathering. And so they came to the decision earlier this week that it's going to be truly virtual, I guess like a fantasy football draft at home behind your computer. So we've got people that have been working, and as I mentioned, Dan Evans earlier and his staff, trying to make sure Dan's got a vital role in this draft to make sure my technology works so that I can get our picks in and make sure we have backup plans should power go out or Wi-Fi or any of the technology that we're going to need to execute the draft.
Technology wise, when it comes to draft night, now you guys get to watch the first round, which might be nice to see how everything is executed and unfolds and happens from a technology standpoint. But I'm imagining a few computers, a few phones, a few TVs. Do you guys have plans yet for how that will work and how communication will work between you and your staff?
Yeah, we're going to do a few dry runs even before that Thursday with just who all is going to be on different video conferences, whether it's Zoom or Teams or whatever platform we decide to use. But we're going to do a few of those, especially with our mock drafts that we like to do. Our mocks are going to be interesting because we're going to have to figure out who's available down at 54. Not as easy as if we had stayed at 22, but we'll do some dry runs, and then yeah, that Thursday night when it gets rolling, we'll check everything out, make sure it's working through the league. We're getting the communication of the picks and any trades that happen. Just not that I don't want a first round pick, but if I was ever not going to have one, this is probably the year since there's a lot of unknowns.
With it being a virtual draft, the first virtual draft ever, why are you confident in your staff that you guys can execute this?
Yeah, I think we have people that can adjust on the fly, and we've had to adjust on the fly. I mean, we were supposed to just start draft meetings actually tomorrow. That was the original time because everybody was going to be out at pro days and on the road, and so we went ahead and adjusted and moved that up a little bit. But one of the things that I would say is our staff has adjusted, and we've had to meet via Zoom or via FaceTime or some of them have been doing them on the teams as well. And our coaches, they've done a great job of adjusting, and we're not having the opportunity to face a lot of these players, but we've used this technology and what the league allows to try and touch as many players as we can, just like you and I are talking through some type of video conference platform. So our staff has adjusted, and the good thing is everybody's using the technology that we're going to be using when the draft gets here. So I feel pretty comfortable. There's always the unknowns with technology. It's great till it doesn't work, but we'll have some backup plans and we'll be ready to roll.
With the draft just a couple weeks away, do you reminisce on any memorable draft picks that you've had in the past, especially being with the Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, I love all our picks, and I'm fond of who we did. I would say, the first draft, the intensity of trying to figure out what quarterbacks were going to be available. It was open across. It was the worst kept secret that the Buffalo Bills were in the market for a quarterback. Let's say so. We had worked our way from 21 and 22 to 12 and 22 by the time the draft started, and I was just doing all my research through various people around the league, media, trying to figure out the order and where I could go to get the guy we landed in Josh Allen. So trying to nail that down and the stress of that and what picks we would need to give up and where we would have to trade up to be able to land him. It was something I'll never forget, and probably the most exciting thing. That was the most stressful. The most exciting thing was we kind of took a deep breath and we sat there and we started looking at the board because we wanted to see, who was going to be available at 22 because we kept that pick in the Josh trade. And Tremaine started sliding, and we had a really high grade on Tremaine, and we really had a need there for a middle linebacker. And so when you have a need and a guy sticking out, that's when the board tells you to go trade up. So we started making calls. I remember at 14 in Green Bay stayed put, and at 15 Oakland stayed put, but at 16, Baltimore was willing to move. And when it was all said and done, the funniest thing about it was Josh was drafted at 7, Tremaine was at 16, so it added up to 716. It was pretty symbolical.
That is pretty cool. One more question before we wrap up. What's something that you've learned about yourself during this quarantine?
Oh man, trying to um, get away. Like the hard part is I'm wired, and it's just hard to. I don't know if I've learned. I kind of know that about myself, but it's one of the things that I've had to remind myself is to get up and get away from this computer or get off the phone and just get outside and get some fresh air. Because if you don't, things become cluttered. And so just trying to manage my schedule. Normally you go to work, you go in early, you stay all day, you do your stuff, and maybe you do some work from home. But once you're home, you're home. Here, you're here all day, so you may have some days I may have a break from 3 to 4:30, but I'm on the phone at 10 o'clock at night, trying to work something out. So just being able to every day is like a new day, even though you're confined to your home.
Awesome, Brandon. Thank you. We appreciate the time.
You got it, Maddie. Stay safe.